Community. That's you know. Are we live yet? Oh, hi everybody. We're back. Welcome back. These second last, and these last three talks have been the most important to me because we can look at the bigger picture, like the corals or the trash or everything else. But if we don't heal the local community along with the bigger community or the bigger issues, we really just don't heal the whole, and we have to heal the whole. So I'm so glad Oliver has joined us, and we're going to talk about his great Melipona Foundation. What's it called?
I'm a promoter.
Yes, a promoter. Yes, I forgot. Oliver's a promoter of the Melipona bees, and he's going to talk about the Melipona. Go ahead.
Good night, everybody. So I want to tell you about the project that we do it here in Tulum. We know many communities that they work with the Melipona bees. So we start this project to try to protect and conserve the culture and traditions of the Mayas, because as we see, the young people in the communities, they go out to other cities like Cancun or Playa del Carmen, and all the culture that they have in their village is on
Being lost.
yeah
It's being lost.
it's been lost. So we want to create a conscience to the young people that the knowledge that their grandfather and grandmothers have is very values. Also we work with the businessman here in Tulum to try to get the idea that they have to conserve the nature, right? Because we see we have a lot of development here every day.
Every day is coming a lot of people for building and construct and destroy everything around.
Yeah, there's 372 developments coming in the next 6 months.
Yeah,
So
and one is very big. The news.
372 developments. 372 development coming in 6 months. So there's a lot of destruction happening.
Exactly. So it's not all about money, right? Because if you have money and you don't have nature, what you gonna do with the money, right?
I mean, you don't have any travel industry.
Exactly.
Exactly. So the thing that we are doing here in Tulum is talk with the people who have hotels, for example, and restaurants to get in this project. The project is we have meliponaries. It's like a box of wood where the bees, Melipona bees, live in there, and also the owners. If they put the meliponary in their properties, they need to conserve the natural flowers, the natural trees, because these bees need these special flowers from the original trees and original plants from this area. So, because as we see, we see a lot of like landscaping, but the landscaping is not the real flowers or the real trees from this area. They brought from other parts of Mexico plants, and it's like an invasion for me, no? And I see many people here in Tulum that start to get conscious about protect the culture, no? Because the bee is not only an animal, it's part of the culture of the Mayas. I speak with every worker here in Tulum, like waitress, like chefs, like housekeeping, everything, and everybody knows this bee. because it's part of the culture, because their grandfathers and grandmothers always work with this bee. And I always talk, and they say, yes, I remember my grandfather used to work this bee. And I say, why you don't do that? No, because I need money, and that's because I here in this hotel to work. But you don't look happy doing that. Yes, I know. Would you like to continue the work that your grandfather and grandmother do? And they always say, yes, if I can do it, I will do it.
So it's a matter of economics, really.
Exactly.
And also not only a matter of economics. When you and I went to the Don Pedro's farm, it's also a matter of nature and the causing, and also obviously the African bee, and that goes back to the economics. And it's an incredible thing to be able to offer meliponaries, and we're going to be working with Oliver and have a meliponary here and add the local flower, of course. And I think that this is a wonderful project that all the hotels, at least 50-60% of the hotels should have the melipona bee. But the other part of the project that concerns me is losing the culture.
Exactly.
This is a more important part of the whole thing, is that the sons and daughters are migrating away from their culture in order to survive, in order to not be happy really, and work for 18 hours a day and make very little, and then go home to sleep with 6 other people in a room, or our next guest take over the land. And so we also have to protect that. So how do you propose you're a guy who came back to Mexico, and you have looked inside all of these farms and people. Do you think that it's possible that we can bring them back home?
I think this is a personal decision from each person that they want to return, but I think that they have to have the decision in their hands, not just for obligation, because they need to go out to grow up the economy of the family, right? So something happened to me when I was more younger. I went to Europe to study, and that when I was there, I realized that my culture and my the
life,
everything that surround me is that I want to be there, right? So if the people of the community Mayas go out to Cancun and they are not happy because they don't like their works, they have the possibility to back to their towns, village. It's good because they will bring the knowledge that they have in the city, and maybe some money too, to return to the communities and spread the knowledge that they got it, and do things for the communities, right?
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about with the Melipona project, along with your project. Not only the meliponaries that we should kick into high gear, but we were talking with Oliver and proposing another Radio Tulum project to try to scientifically create a greenhouse, a small greenhouse, where we can create the local fauna and the flora within the greenhouse and create a meliponary that we can also offer and say, hey, we'll buy the melipona back, and you can also go back to the melipona bee, because it's not just a question of the melipona, it's also that the farming and the harvesting, even if the farmer does stay there, he's harvesting the African bee. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So
Mandip and many people from here, from the staff of Mandip, we went to Felipe Carrillo Puerto. That's because Mandip know that I talk about. And I'm very happy and I'm very glad that Mandeep, that she's not from here, she's very interested in conserve these things, no? So actually, I want to tell you that we're gonna show someday a documentary that we are going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's very interesting. We're going to take Oliver on the ride. I mean, just to give, because he's very modest, so he doesn't tell his own story very much. But he's a man who came back to his home, and ran into a sign and started discovering his own people or his own land even further and further. And really, the excuse for me is not only to help the Melipona, is to put a face to the local community. Because the more we look at the local community, more than we make them a part of our lives, the more they become human rather than distant. And this is a very important part of what Radio Tulum is trying to do, and what we should do as humans is to not just talk about things from a distance. We have to get involved, and this is very important. I'm going to ask you, Oliver, you started with this whole thing with a poem. Will you please, for the ending, recite this poem, and then we will invite our next guest.
Of course. I'm going to stand up. So this poem that I'm going to recite of you, it is a mix of a realistic point of view of Don Pedro, and the other part is part of the real culture. Okay? So, Don Pedro Jalachwinik de Felipe Carrillo Puerto, antiguamente Chan Santa Cruz, tuvo un sueño revelador. Fue durante una noche calurosa, no corría ni un suspiro de viento. Una tormenta se avecinaba a lo lejos, refrescando el sudor eterno del trópico. Chuck le dijo: yo soy señor del viento, del agua y de las criaturas salvajes. Yo soy señor del monte sagrado. Mi permiso y bendición es necesario para dar la vida. Yo te concedo su cuidado y bendigo la cosecha de su néctar divino. Ve por los 4 vientos y esparce la semilla de la vida allá por donde vayas. Don Pedro y su esposa dedican su vida a sanar, cuidar, curar y recibir nuevas vidas. Pese a que su centro de medicina tradicional maya se encuentra en ruinas, su cuerpo, sus almas y sus corazones están de pie, porque esa es la misión encomendada, pero sobre todo dejar su legado a Pedro, su nieto, para así conservar la cultura y tradiciones de sus antepasados mayas. That's all. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Hear the love in all that you do. Gracias, Oliver. Thank you so much for doing all that you do, and we're here to help. Please join us. We're going to post the Don Pedro documentary, part 1, and then we'll be visiting many more local farmers and trying to figure out how we can...
and we invite you to come with us and see what we're going to do.
Yes, of course. And also, if you want a meliponery, it doesn't take a lot, correct, to have a meliponery in your own home, or is it just in the hotels?
Yeah, also.
Also, yes. In fact, one of the parts of the documentary is one of our great friends, Margot, brought her own melipona box and gave it to Don Pedro, who has now fertilized it or made it a full-on meliponery, and she now has it in her house, correct?
Yes.
Amazing. So it's not just about the hotels. We as a local community can also be a part of the culture, and really be in tune with it without distance or calling it Mayan or Melipona. We should touch it. We should breathe it and be a part of it. This is much deeper a connection than all of it, right? We can sit around and talk till we're blue in the face, but let's try to touch it and grab it for what we can. Hear the love in all that you do.
Thank you, Mandeep.
Thank you, gracias.